welcome to this video. I'm going to quickly go over the importance of enabling your MikroTik Firewall, in particular your input chain. So I've done this in another video with my basic setup, but I thought it's really key to go over this if you ever use MikroTik and you're not using if you're removing the default config, which I always recommend you do to put your own config on there. You may not think about putting the firewall on correctly. And I'm just going to say it's really important that you do. And I'll show you for why. So basically we've got a hacker or someone up to no good, and he's malicious trying to get in. So what we need to do is prevent that. Simple as. So we won't go into major details about the different chains within MikroTik firewalling at the moment. We're just concentrating on what's known as the input one. So basically anything that's destined for the device itself. So forward traffic is the forward chain, so anything passing through, and then output is anything out coming out of them. So originating on the firewall, originating on the router and going out. But input is really important that we lock that down, and I'll show you. Basically, I've just before I started this video, I just removed all my firewall rules on this AWS CHR I've got, and then on the AWS side as well, I put an allow any rule on the security group that's protecting it, and as you can see, within about 5 minutes I've already got 4 attempts to log in, and if I was to leave this, you'd get heaps. Basically these are bots, probably more likely, that are scanning IP address, and when it gets a response it will then basically try and check what of services are available, and because I've got everything open, it's getting responses, and it's just trying, and it'll try a random like user. You sometimes see admin, you sometimes see root, because you won't necessarily know that it's a MikroTik. If we just grab this IP here, we'll take a look at where it's originating from. There we go, Amsterdam. So that's more than likely not from Amsterdam. It's going to be routing through Amsterdam somehow. It's just quite easy to do nowadays. You can just buy services all over the world. But yeah, we don't want anything malicious trying to get in. So they could be brute forcing a password. You may not have set a password. You'll be into all sorts of problems. The best form of defense is the firewall. Here we go. Let's go to filter rules. So as you can see, I've got no rules in here at all. Some routers from manufacturers will have a default implicit deny rule in there, which you then you can't remove, and you have to then build your holes for your firewall above it. But in MikroTik, it just has nothing. So we're just open, like a lot of other vendors as well. But yeah. So what we need to do is start off by always add your allow rule first, so we don't lose access, because this will block it from any, if we don't specify what interface, which we're going to do, but we're coming to it remotely anyway, because this is remote. It's an AWS. Ether1 is my internet in interface. And action we're going to accept, but we want to accept it from, so either source address, so I'll either stick in my address, or we use this source address list, which I always prefer to use, because it just means we can add other addresses later on. We just call this allow hosts. I'm going to stick in my IP, which is flagged up on here, which is dynamic, so would change. But for this example, you always want to stick in IP addresses which are going to be valid. Static, they won't change. So you may want to come at this for a VPN server, which was an IP address that won't change. So we add that allow. So then we could also, if we were then access this is our home router, we would want to get to it from our home network. So you'd also then have to have the whole subnet in there, for example. But this is just a public facing cloud router. So then we in here in the address list, now we can see allowed hosts. There we go. And then action is accept. So then we go back to filter rules, and there it is. So now what we need to do is now we add our deny rule after that. If we just stuck our deny rule straight in, we would be locked out basically. So again, input in for ether1, and action would be drop. So we'll drop anything we don't trust. There we go. Easy as. So there's now stuff hitting that, but we should stop to see. We shouldn't see any more of these guys appear. Okay. But the other thing of note is, as I mentioned, this is stuff coming into the firewall. However, there are some protocols which will originate from the firewall themselves. Sorry, I keep calling it firewall, the router itself, and the return packet. It might be UDP, and it wouldn't necessarily have an established session open. Well, it will have an established session open, but it won't necessarily allow it back in. So we don't want to drop that, in particular DNS, for example. So if I added my own DNS here, okay, now I want to resolve DNS. I can't resolve DNS because basically it's sending the request out, but it's dropping the response back. So what we need to do for that, we can either add a separate rule which would match on the protocol of the port and allow that in, but then we're allowing all DNS in, requests in. So what we need to do is in the drop rule, we go for connection type. No, sorry, we go for connection state. And here we have these options. So you could have a separate rule which allows established traffic. So this is anything that's, that we want the response to come back for. So we send the request out, and we want another option would be NTP. NTP wouldn't work for that example. So, but I always stick it in the drop rule, so it's all in one rule. But because I'm doing the opposite of allowing, I'm saying don't drop established. So that's what that exclamation mark is. So if it was an allow rule, it would allow established. But because it's in the drop rule, we want to say drop everything except for established traffic. Hopefully that makes sense. And now let's try and do our, there we go. Easy. So now we are secure. We're not letting anything in except for anything from me, basically. So hopefully anything else, if you then add any port forwarding rules in, you would then need to have, so that would be done under the NAT rules, but then also you then need a firewall rule to allow that traffic in to be natted. If that makes sense. We could go into lots more detail about the packet flow and what happens first, firewalling, natting. Some people assume because you're not allowing NAT forwarding through that it's secure, but NAT is not a firewall. NAT is a way of passing traffic through. So there'll be future videos going in more in depth in this one, but I thought this one just to highlight the importance of adding your firewall, making sure it's configured properly, and also testing that you don't also break stuff. So like that DNS issue, you would have found that if you'd done this on the corporate network and you thought, oh, I better put my firewall on, and then everyone starts screaming at you because nothing's working because your DNS isn't working. So definitely test every time. But anyway, thanks for watching. Simple video. Any questions, any more elaboration wanted, please feel free, reach out, comment in the below, or go to my website and you can comment on there. You can contact me on there if you want any other videos making. But if not, please like and subscribe. Very appreciated when people do, because I enjoy making these videos and I would like to, help people. So, but if not, I'll see you on the next one. So thanks.